So, Steve, I owe a lot of my real estate success to the VA loan. And to answer your question, I'll just tell part of my story and then kind of unpack it a little bit. First,
Hmm.
I bought a condo. I bought a condo zero down. I paid 280 grand for it back in the day, right? But this was
Wow.
a condo that was sitting on the market, dude, like 90 days. No one wanted it because it was ugly. But I figured, hey, I'll live here. I'm active duty at the time. I'll live here a couple of years. I'll rent out the other room. I'll fix it up a little. And I fixed it up over the 2.5 years that I lived there. And I sold it at the end of those 2.5 years. By the way, my roommate's paying most of my expenses the whole time. I sell it, um, and I netted $103,000 tax free from that sale
Mm.
because I lived in it. I used the primary residence exception 2 out of 5 years. So instead of that was money that I would have paid in rent anyways. So if you're going to
Mm.
spend that money already in rent, go ahead and use that.
All right. So, welcome to Real Talk with San Diego Steve, where we're on a mission to empower first-time homebuyers, investors in the San Diego military community. Our goal to provide you with actionable insights and strategies to achieve financial freedom through real estate. Each episode, we spotlight inspirational stories to give you tools for your real estate toolbox. Whether you're just starting out or looking to elevate your real estate game, you're in the right place. I'm Stephen Bernard, your favorite San Diego agent and investor, and your host. Today, we have the real life house bender, Adit Shah, whose mindset and real estate journey is the epitome of what we're striving for, using real estate to unlock a life worth living. Predicated on continuous growth, virtuous dedication, and stoic perseverance. Um, Adit, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to try and do my best of hitting the wave tops of the introduction because you have so much value to add.
Damn, dude, stoic perseverance. That
Yeah.
I am so humbled by that, bro. I'm actually I am a big stoicism buff. So, hey, thank you so much for that intro, Steve. That
Yeah.
was such an honor to hear that, man. And I'm super excited to be here, and I'm really excited to be here because you focus on two of my favorite things in real estate. San Diego in the military. So we're like right there, man. We're in the same zone. So
I
I'm
love it.
excited for this talk.
I love it. So let me see if I get this recap right, Adit. So you're a Navy vet, prior boatswain mate, and you began your career by having the audacity to dive headfirst into the industry in about 2019, right? You took to the grindstone, sending resumes from what I can tell every single developer that you can find, and followed up until you finally got an opportunity, and that opportunity was for you to work for free, literally doing stuff like cleaning toilets, handyman work, which led from one thing to another. You became a property manager, right? And you you are what I have identified as the Swiss Army knife of a real estate investor here in San Diego. You've done development, you're messing with hotel syndications now, multifamily properties, flipping, value add, house hacking, and you did it all with a purpose. So, I currently I saw you are managing an asset portfolio of $20 million under Tempest 22, which I love. 22 calling out awareness for the 22 veterans that lose their lives every day. And you're taking the real estate world but like a tempest. And I really think it's just a testament to the power of your dedication from what I've seen of you, your strategic approach to real estate, and you're really setting a stellar example for veterans and aspiring investors. So again, thank you, Adit.
Steve, you are setting a stellar example on how to make people feel great about themselves, man. I'm seriously, dude. Thank you so much for all that, man. Yeah, I mean, where do you want to go? You may go into my background or
Well, so I wanted to try and hit that introduction, because so often we hear the cookie cutter, take me, why real estate? Why'd you get into real estate? And I think that's out there for you. Your story, your accomplishments, they speak for themselves. And where I kind of want to focus today for the audience is the driving force behind that. You know, your fundamentals, your principles, and then as well as some action steps. Because you know, we're talking to first-time home buyers, we're talking to the military community, where real estate is, you know, just that seed of an idea where you were in 2019. So why don't we start with your transition from Navy into real estate, and focusing on your mindset and what was driving you to pursue the lifestyle that you now have.
Yeah, definitely, man. So I got out of the Navy with zero plan, zero money, zero clue, zero connection, zero education, nothing. Right? Like a bunch of people are in the military and they take really good advantage of it. They use the TA, they use those educational benefits. I took a college class on deployment on the ship because I was trying to get out of work, like when I was a junior enlisted. That was the extent of my college in the military. So I had no education, man. I got out. I was working for a moving business that was owned by a Marine Corps veteran, Fidencio Reyna, by the way. He taught me so much. Shout out Fidencio. And I got out. I started working for him. Then I started kind of my own little moving side hustle, man. And I was making good money, like pretty much the same I was making as an E5 with BAH, but I had just realized, dude, like being a bosun mate in the military, getting out doing physical labor again, like this isn't gonna last. And I was broken by the time I had the military. I had some health issues, and I knew I couldn't sustain that. And before I got out, I did something smart. I used my VA loan to purchase a condo, and I was house hacking. I didn't know what house hacking was at the time, but I was house hacking. My roommate was paying most of my expenses, and I realized, damn, this real estate thing is pretty powerful. I'm living for 700 bucks a month, all in, like HOA, everything. And that's really cheap for San Diego. Like my same room would have been rented out for 1,200 bucks, just because I took that step to buy a property. And I got super, super interested in real estate. And you hit it, man. I don't want to repeat what you just said, but I basically sent out a letter to every developer, syndicator, and a high volume flipper in San Diego. Said, "Let me come work for you for free." Everyone told me to f off. One guy, after persistent follow up, was like, "You know what? Come to the job site. If you wanted to just come check it out, maybe get this kid to shut up, put him through the ringer." He put me through a small. It wasn't really a ringer. Had me carry some boxes, meet his guys, and that turned into a relationship that I still have today. It was a free position for a year, and then it was a 2 years paid position as a property manager and a project manager. So got my
Yeah.
feet wet in development there, and that was kind of my start into real estate.
And what do you feel like as far as your values that you had in the military, maybe a little bit disenfranchised as we all endure, that you then found revitalized through your opportunity? What are kind of those key points?
Yes, Steve. So the military taught me two invaluable lessons that I've really carried in business and helped me a lot when I was getting started. Number one is don't worry about whatever everyone else is doing or whatever everyone else is getting, right? So when you're getting started and you're listening to podcasts like this, you're listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast, and you're listening to people's story, getting started, and they're like, yeah, and my dad gave me a loan, or yeah, and my dad was in real estate, or yeah, I have a big software sales job making $250,000 a year. You might not fit that criteria, but that does not mean that you can't have achieved the same or better results than those people, right? In the military, it's all the time you hear guys are like, man, and I worked my ass off and way better than all these guys, but I got the MP instead of the EP eval. But it's just what the military taught me: just put on your blinders, put your head down, take consistent actions, and you will achieve the results you want. Number two, the military taught me that you have to be unconventional in your approach to advancing, right? So you have to take on the things that nobody wants to do. You have to be willing to do what nobody else wants to do. Like in the military, I was the guy, and I was in deck department, which is one of the arguably the shittiest departments in the Navy. And I would be the guy needle gunning, scraping barnacles, and painting while everyone else did not want to do that. But that got my chain of command's attention. and I advanced quickly. I made E5 in under 3 years, which is pretty fast for a Bosun mate.
Wow.
And it's the same thing in real estate. Like, I knew that if I wanted results that nobody else had, I had to do what nobody else was doing. So I went and just worked for free, just chucked any idea of results away, and just said, what consistent actions can I take? And I just want to be around what I want to do. I want to be around real estate development. So that's what I did.
So would you say that you got addicted to the actions that you were taking rather than the result you were pursuing?
Absolutely, man. And detachment from the result is honestly one of the biggest things that have carried me through my career in and out of the military. Is just, instead of measuring results, right? It's important as business owners that we measure results, that we measure our inputs, but we should not become so married to those. We should not allow those to drive our actions or consistency. The consistency should always remain intense,
Hmm.
regardless of what the result is. And you should just have faith in your vision and your why, and take
Hmm.
those consistent actions, and you will achieve anything that you want.
Rewind that 15 seconds and listen to it about 5 times.
Yeah.
Write that on your mirror. Yeah, that's it. Consistency. Now, so I want to go back to those two big kind of principles you learned. And obviously, you're a man that constantly grows and develops himself. So I know you've tacked on more. But so starting from not worrying about anyone else and being unconventional, you transitioned out of the military. You got your free position. Tell me how those principles played out in your investing strategy.
Yeah, so I mean, everyone knows that San Diego is not an easy market, okay? And I think that is one of the best thing about San Diego's, that not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can just stick their foot in our market. You got to have, number one, some serious grit, and number two, some serious patience and consistency to make things happen in San Diego. And I think that's one of the biggest advantages of our market. And that going back to the principles, and trying to connect it to the investment strategy early on, was number one. My most my best, like, my home run deals came in the most competitive market, when people were offering 50, 100, $200,000 above asking. Back in those days, I bought a property under asking, the one that nobody wanted to touch, right? And I'm not saying just blindly go and buy that property that's sitting on market for over a year and has a ton of problems, but try to figure out why it's sitting there, and try to figure out if you can make lemonade out of that lemon. And that's definitely something that's carried me. And even to this day, like, I'm buying the properties that have the squatters, the foundation issues, the title issues, the litigation, everything that no one else is willing to touch is where I'm going to shine, because no one else is going to want to make an offer on that. And if they do make an offer on that, a lot of those people are not going to know what they're doing, and a lot of those people are not going to have the patience to deal with those
Mm.
problems. But I know that if I have the patience to deal with those problems, and I look at them as just a number, I don't attach any emotions to them, that can be a big, big, big opportunity for me and my investors. So that's kind of how those principles apply to the investment strategy.
And and so what you listed a few of them. What were some of the problems that you found yourself, drawn to where other people were scared away? And how did you get either the knowledge or the team around you to address those problems?
So, great question. Previously, so, like, in the beginning, I was really going after just those ugly properties no one wanted to buy, because I was working in real estate development, right? I was transforming these assets. I knew what it looked like. I knew what the before and after looked like. So what I did was, I would go and take that ugly property. I would go take the property that had super low rents, because I carried this experience of working in the industry with me, and I knew I was confident because I already done it 100 times with someone else's money and someone else's portfolio. I knew that I could just do it for myself. So in the beginning, I was going after a lot of heavy remodel. I was going after a lot of low rents, because I just had a strong property management and leasing background. And now I'm kind of going after the tenant issues, the litigation involved properties, things like that. Um, And I think that's kind of what set me apart and is why I'm still able to do deals today that I'm walking in with equity and they're cash flowing on day one in San Diego. Yes, it's possible. Um, is because I'm willing to take on those problems that no one else is. Now, for you look, if you're out there looking at your first deal, I'm not saying go buy a property with the squatter in it, right? Especially if you've only got $10,000 or $15,000 saved up and you're going to do a 50, 60, $70,000 rehab that you got a loan on, you don't have a lot of reserves, you've never done this before. Maybe pump the brakes and just, sit that one out if you're not comfortable. If you're comfortable, you're like me, you don't, you're just going to look at it as an experience, go for it. But maybe don't be scared of the ugly property that smells like cigarettes.
Mm.
Have a little bit of a vision. Maybe even if it takes you 3 to 5 years to complete the vision you have for that property while you live there, don't be scared to do that, because that is how you get paid in real estate. Is you solve problems, and if you don't
Mm.
solve problems, you don't make money. So
And you're the you're one of the kings that I've seen on value add. And I want to touch on something you just said. While you're living in the property, you know, make money in real estate. Because a huge part of our community here is the either active duty or veteran military community in San Diego, who has access to the VA loan. So how would you suggest they implement that tool, with this strategy?
yeah, definitely. So Steve, I owe a lot of my real estate success to the VA loan. And to answer your question, I'll just tell part of my story and then kind of unpack it a little bit. First,
Mm-hmm.
I bought a condo. I bought a condo zero down. I paid 280 grand for it back in the day, right? But this was
Wow.
a condo that was sitting on the market, dude, like 90 days. No one wanted it because it was ugly. But I figured, hey, I'll live here. I'm active duty at the time. I'll live here a couple years. I'll rent out the other room. I'll fix it up a little. And I fixed it up over the 2.5 years that I lived there. And I sold it at the end of those 2.5 years. By the way, my roommate's paying most of my expenses the whole time. I sell it. Um, and I netted $103,000 tax free from that sale
Mm.
because I lived in it. I used the primary residence exception 2 out of 5 years. So instead of that was money that I would have paid in rent anyways. So if you're going to
Mm.
spend that money already in rent, go ahead and use that VA loan and buy. Now, I'm not saying that if it costs you $3,000 to rent and $6,000 mortgage. No, don't do that. Maybe, I don't know. It might make sense for you if there's a major value add. You're not going to be paying the whole six because you're renting out the rooms. Look at your situation. But if it's exponentially cheaper for you to rent, then rent. But if it's a little bit more or the same and you can rent out a room and it be even less, then buy. Use that resource, especially if you're on active duty and you have W-2 income. Take advantage of that while you're active duty. Own that asset, because the worst case scenario is if the rents cover your expenses, you move out, you rent it out while you're PCS, market grows, which it will over the course of 10, 15, 20 years, you sell it and you pay no taxes if you lived in the last 2.5 years, 2 out of 5 years. Number two, actually, I know you had Donald Appleberry on this show. Him and I bought a property in 2021 with the VA loan with the intention of doing like a house hack value add thing. We could never move into it because of COVID and eviction restrictions. We couldn't move anyone out. But what we were able to do was do some renovations there. We completely remodeled most of that property. Um, we raised the rents. We cleaned it
Mm.
up. We implemented some very, very fundamental management things like we build back utilities, stuff like that. And then we sold it, and that was a gross $350,000 profit between the two of us. So that's VA deal number two. VA deal number three, I bought a duplex in San Diego. All my deals are in San Diego. The 3 unit was in Imperial Beach. Bought a duplex. This was last year, right when the rates started ticking up. Um, uh, Submitted plans to build 2 units in the back. I'm a real estate developer. That's kind of my bread and butter, and that one has over six figures in equity now. So if you buy in San Diego the right way, if you got someone like San Diego Steve on your side, and I'm not just saying that because I know you, Steve. I know that if you're hanging around Donald, and you're helping military buyers, you're obviously an expert of how to maximize that VA loan. And
Mm-hmm.
one way to do that is to simply look at it as a way for you to not pay somebody else's mortgage. Pay your own mortgage. So And from that, you get a bunch of side effects. Like over years, you will make six figures in equity, and you will sell, and you will pay no taxes. So I think that it is a no brainer for anyone in the military to explore that option. And it's not like, oh, the rates are too high. I don't want you to just figure it out. You know, if you have to go buy off market deals, if you need to do some renovations, if you need to rent out the other rooms, if you need to get a loan or save up some money and build an ADU, figure it out, but use it. Because while you're active duty,
Mm.
you have W 2 income, use that VA loan. If you're a veteran, use that VA loan. Don't pay somebody else's mortgage.
Oh, absolutely. That was so good. Um, and so one of the things you're really good at as well that I've noticed is networking, right? And real estate is a team sport. So imagine someone that is brand new to real estate, has is listening to this as, their first inspiration maybe to go use that VA loan. What are they looking for? What did you look for in the team that you built around you to help you have the successes that you did with those purchases?
Definitely, man. And talking about team building is, I'm a you come to my house and you sleep in my bed, I'll sleep on the floor type of guy. You know, and when you radiate that kind of energy, you attract like minded people, man.
Mm,
So, I mean, I had to just and being working for that developer, he was the same way, and his whole team was like that. So just being around those kinds of people, and then eventually using them for my own deals, I think just being what you want to attract, man, is going to get you the right
mm,
team. And then also really like focus on giving other people value.
mm,
It's completely okay for you to do a business transaction. Of course, if you make money, right? But maybe the other person got more value out of that. I look at it as a win. You know,
mm-hmm,
like let's say San Diego, Steve and I, Steve, you bring me a deal, and maybe it's not a deal that's really in my criteria, and I'm not really getting the best return, but I'm getting a sufficient return for my investors. It's not a home run, but Steve, you do something like you get to double end it, and you made more money than I did on that deal. I think that's a win,
mm,
man, because you're gonna remember me and think about making money. And everyone,
mm-hmm.
when they think about me, I want them to think about how they won or how they felt good or things like that. So I think just having that selfless attitude, man, is
Hey guys, it's your break with San Diego Steve. If you're getting value from this real estate talk, please smash that like button, drop a comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up with the smartest real estate moves in San Diego. Act now, and let's build your real estate empire together.
And did you
crucial teamwork.
develop that? Did you develop that kind of, give first, being the go giver, through networking in any particular way while you were in San Diego?
So when you're starting with zero, all you have is your charm and your ability to make people feel good, right? So I'm going to these freaking real estate meetups, man. Like I'm the only guy in a button down and khakis, and all these like developers got $250,000 watches on, and they're wearing board shorts and flip flops. And you're trying to approach these people, man, and it's intimidating because you have $0 in your. I had $0 in my bank account. Anyone who has $0 in their bank account, when they talk, if they're not polished, they're gonna sound like someone who has $0, and I definitely did. But I just always knew that if I left someone feeling good from a conversation,
Mm,
they would remember me. And when I consistently went back to these meetups, and even if it was just like, dude, love your board shorts, man. Hey, dude, is that a Breitling? The
yeah.
watch, yeah, they'll remember me. They're like, yeah, man, that's sick. And you don't even talk about real estate. You don't even talk about how'd you get started. How can I get started? You just make them feel good, and make it a genuine
Yeah.
compliment, something that you like about them, and find them on LinkedIn, creep on them a little, stalk them a little, figure out what problems they have, and solve those problems for them. That's
Mm.
literally how to get started in real estate 101.
So if I could boil down kind of that guiding principle that you had, it in every level of your career, it's identify a problem and solve it, whether it's a human problem, whether it's a money problem, whether it's a property problem. Just identify and solve. And if you don't know how, the wealth of information is in everyone's hands, everyone's pockets. Have you ever met anyone at one of these networking events that you can find, download the Meetup app? There's real estate stuff going on every week in San Diego. Did you ever find anyone there that, wasn't willing to talk to you about what they were doing or what they know?
Sadly, yes. I
Mm.
would love to be like, nah, man, everyone will talk to you. In San Diego, there are a couple of major assholes out there who are just, I think that's everywhere. There's just some cocky people, and honestly, you don't want to be around those people because for
Hmm.
every one of those people, there's 10 really genuinely good-hearted people who will be more than willing to open the door for you. Right. So if you come across those kinds of people, don't feel discouraged. 100% of those people over the long term fail. All of them do. But you will absolutely find good, genuine people who just want to talk about real estate to new people, to experienced people, because they really love it. Because we're passionate about it. Because this is our trade. This is our bread and butter, and we love talking about it. And we would, if simply me talking about real estate to you gives you value, and maybe you take one golden nugget out of what I say, that's a huge win for me. Now what I would like to say is don't just go asking people random questions. Look on Google first. And any interaction you have with someone who has the results that you want to achieve, figure out how to
Hmm.
bring them value in that interaction. Figure out how to solve a problem for them in that interaction. Don't do the whole "will you be my mentor" thing. Like no one wants to be your fucking mentor. Like solve a problem for them. If you know
Hmm.
how to edit videos, be like, "Hey, dude, I just made this Instagram reel for you. I noticed you're putting out content. I would love for you to give me some feedback. Feel free to use it. And if you like it, I got 3 more that I made for you. I'd just love for you to have for free. And don't even ask for anything and see what happens." They'll be like, "Hey, what
You,
the heck, man?" So
yeah,
yeah.
I heard Alex Hormozy talking about it, and I mean, whether you like the guy or not, I think he's a brilliant advertiser, and you give, and then maybe ask. um, and that's that principle. And I think that's how you started your career, right? You started by giving. Like the value that you got was learning, being around the construction, learning the development game, learning the people, the trade, what before and after looks like. um, and you didn't ask for anything at first. I will provide the value for you. And you identified, hey, I can move these boxes around. I can deal with all your tenant problems that you don't want to deal with. I will do the work that no one wants to do, which, your two principles that you said at the beginning are emanating through your entire story so far. One being unconventional in the way that you advance, and two, like you were just talking about with the networking events, sometimes you just put the blinders on. If you encounter someone who's not willing to share, to give, or to be receptive of you giving something, that's fine. Move on to the next. It's nothing against you personally. He doesn't even know you. And you can build and you can grow that way.
Yeah, dude, you totally nailed it.
And so I want to kind of take that. We were talking about a lot of the metaphysical stuff, right? The ideals, the principles, a lot of, what guides you and what kind of person you are. I kind of wanted to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty of real estate today. Um, Imagine you were where you were when you started in 2019. Um, what advice would you give to yourself dealing with today's market? Where would you look? Who would you talk to, etc.?
So if I was to start over again today, it's a completely
Mm-hmm.
different market. Rates are sky high. Deals are scarce. It's a completely different animal. Not necessarily the principles, but the strategy that I used may not work for people today. People might not be able to walk in on day one, paying less than what they were for rent. It might not be possible today. I don't know. I haven't really analyzed the VA deal in this high interest rate environment. But number one, I'll start with the metaphysical point is that don't let that be an excuse. Like there's a hunt. Even when I got started, there was 99 reasons of not to get started. The market's going to crash. The market still hasn't freaking crashed, and it will one day, and that's fine because we're playing a long term game. So play a long term game. Don't let the high interest rate be an excuse. Don't let deal scarcity be an excuse. Literally, all you have to do is figure it out. Okay, here are the problems. The interest rate is high. Deals are scarce. Okay, so what? Figure it out and make it work. Look at what your personal strengths are. Everyone has personal strengths and apply those to real estate. I can't
Hmm.
figure that out for you, but just sit there and ask yourself and be like, what do I do great that no one else does? And then go for it. I will say that if anyone is transitioning out of the military and maybe you're a single guy or a guy that is gonna guy or girl and you're gonna go to college and receive the GI Bill, and that's going to cover your living expenses with the GI Bill or Voc Rehab and disability and those things. Take advantage of that moment and go work for somebody for free. That is applicable in any and all markets, high interest rate, low deals. If there's someone who's established in doing deals, go offer them value, and I promise you 100% of the times you'll figure it out. Additionally, I will say that in this market, one thing that is still insanely lucrative and doing great as a strategy for me is ADUs. One thing about San Diego that is a very unique, well, not so unique anymore because the whole nation's catching on, but is our YIMBY government. Yes, in my backyard government. They are allowing us to build whatever the hell we want. Is that concerning over a long term? Yeah, it is. Right now, is it concerning? No, because there's still a very scarce housing. There's still scarcity of housing, a low housing supply. So just that alone, I mean, if you can figure that out and look at a property that might have some value added room to build some ADUs and
Hmm.
figure out how to do that yourself, it'll very likely pay you, even though the interest rate is high.
That's the most beautiful segue. I couldn't even write that out. I was going to ask you about SB 9, SB 10, and the legislation going on that came about in San Diego a couple years ago. How you're using that and how someone can get not how someone can get familiar with, but how can someone apply that to a investment strategy?
Yeah, definitely. So, from a real estate development standpoint in San Diego, we have a huge toolbox, right? We've got the state level ADU laws, which San Diego passed, even more lenient laws. From those laws, we have something called sustainable development areas, which was previously the transit priority area. In that area, you can build unlimited ADUs with a couple of restrictions, as long as for every bonus ADU that you build a deed restricted affordable ADU. Those deals, they cash flow. They absolutely cash flow, and they have some massive, massive equity gain. Number two is complete communities and the affordable housing density bonus. The result of those are kind of bigger apartment buildings. So, like, you're kind of talking to your 30 to 50 and even up to 100 units from that legislation. And furthermore, you have things like conversions where you can convert existing permitted space, whether it be living space or non living space, like a garage, storage, shed, into living space. So maybe you're looking at a property that has a big backyard and you can build an ADU back there, but maybe you're looking at a property and it has a detached garage or even an attached garage. That's a studio right there. And studios are going anywhere from $1,600 in 92113 to $2,200 in Linda Vista per month. So you can literally turn $70,000, right? Whether you do that with a loan or you have the money saved up or a combination of the two, and turn that into $2,200 that you're knocking off your mortgage every single month. So yeah, that's your answer to the high interest rate problem. Is you still have all these advantages. So for every problem there is, every disadvantage there's five advantages. You just have to
Hmm.
open your eyes and look at it.
And if I'm receiving that information, the first objection that someone will come up with to make themselves shy away in the figure it out train of thought, which I think, by the way, the military community is also provides a really good platform for you to tackle those kinds of challenges, because you're very frequently put in the figure it out scenario, right?
Yeah.
But say someone doesn't have that toolkit that we have, and they think about, I don't know anyone that can put in a bathroom, or I don't know what the code is supposed to be. Am I supposed to have windows? I don't know a window guy. How would you advise someone to go about solving those initial objections
First of
besides
all,
Googling it?
what I'll say is that you're never gonna know until you know. You know,
Mm,
you're never gonna know till you know. Just you
that's
got to do it
gold.
and figure it out. And I understand that it's scary. I hear you. It is scary. We're talking about six-figure amounts of money. $50 to $100,000 for garage conversions. It's not a little bit of money, and but there's just some simple things that you can do to prevent being screwed over. And the way that you figure that out, number one, you ask your realtor. So you ask San Diego Steve, hey, Steve, do you have a trusted contractor referral? And I promise you he does. And if he doesn't, he knows me now and I do. So, but I'm sure that you have guys that you work with, Steve, and that you know
Mm,
from past projects. And you get that referral that way, or from your property manager, or the San Diego Real Estate Friends Facebook group. Hey, who's on here? You get three bids. You don't pay up front. There's so many things that you can do to protect yourself from getting screwed over by a contractor. And then when you find that good contractor, you just really, really take good care of them. And if you have no clue where to start, you had no clue where to start when you joined the military, right? What'd you do? Step one, go find a recruiter. Step two, take the ASVAB. Whatever it is, you followed those steps. They're same thing. There's some steps that you need to take to achieve this result that you desire, and that's it.
mhm.
Just figure out what those steps are. Get around the right people and execute. But the really, really crucial part of this is execute. Don't get stuck in that loop of just asking, hey, what do I do? What do I do? Go have the conversations with the people that you need to have, and go have the steps you need. Go take the steps that you need to take. So,
Yeah, and I want to highlight a couple of things there. A theme, if you listen to or watch each episode of this podcast so far, talking to these people that are where we want to be, the consistent thread through each one of those stories is just taking action. You know, and it's always going to be scary. There are always going to be reasons not to do something, but indeed, just like what you said, you don't know until you know. You don't know until you do. You don't know until you fail. It's okay to fail. It's okay to not make six-figure exits every single time, as long as you do the preparation to put yourself in a position to be able to recover from that. The second thing that I think is super important to point out. We just had that landmark case between the National Association of Realtors in Missouri, and a lot of people, question what the value is of a realtor, right? What do they bring to the table? And I would always advise, going back to the real estate as a team sport thing, I would always advise prospective clients to ask these questions that Adit just pointed out. Hey, this is what I'm looking to do. Do you know people that can help me do that? What is your network like? Have you done this kind of project before? Are you an investor? Have you done this investment strategy before? Because these are all, when you're a buyer and you're looking to work with a real estate professional, you're also looking to work with their network. Will they take care of you in every one of your needs, or will they truly be a door opener? you know um and it's fine. I'm not going to hate on realtors that are new to the market or new to the game, but as a buyer, you need to look out for yourself first, and be very crystal clear on what it is you want to do and what you need from the people. Just ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions.
yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. But really, like the big thing to unpack from that, man, the first thing that you said is there's really no such thing as failure in business or real estate. It's just
Mm,
results. So you put in inputs, you get out outputs, you look at that data, and you readjust your course. So never ever be afraid of failure, because failure does not exist. There is no failure. The only failure is if you give up, right? But if you keep taking consistent actions, you're going to keep getting data, you're going to adjust, and you're going to eventually achieve your result. Number two, the value of working with the realtor. Man, I have had great realtors and I've had really, really, really bad realtors. So I've experienced all of it. And Steve, I actually love your team, man. I'm very familiar
Mm,
with all the guys and gals on your team, and have had an excellent experiences with them. But Steve, you're really right, and I know that you're a realtor, and it could sound self-serving, like, hey, you
mm,
should go with me because I'm experienced. But no, like, guys, he's right. Like, don't just let just don't let your aunt who has her license, who just one time maybe did a deal in 2013 and just keeps don't let them handle one of the biggest decisions you're going to make in your life. Not for you for not for the first one. I do deals now where there's no realtors involved, but for
mm,
the first one, my realtor was not that great and I had a terrible experience.
mm.
And I lost some money in that process. So just be careful who you work with, vet them accordingly. And I think that as far as from me, I endorse San Diego Steve and his team. You guys are great. So
Thanks, Adito.
yeah,
Appreciate that.
definitely.
Um, I wanted to kind of continue along that thread a little bit. And if you could share, one of my favorite things of the human experience is we are always building upon the shoulders of others, right? The best thing, we're all going to pass at some point in time, but the hope is that the next generation is better off than our generation was. So I'm going to ask you to impart a little bit of knowledge from the standpoint of some of the obstacles and difficulties that you faced along your path and what you learned from them.
Yeah, man, and this is actually like this is what no one talks about. Like, I would love to sit here and tell the story of how I started with nothing and now across two companies, $20 million in assets, have made tons of money and I'm just balling out. But the truth is every single day is a different challenge. And before I talk specifically about the challenges, I will say that there is no such thing as a roadblock so big that it can stop you. Every single challenge that comes your way is just an opportunity to gather more tools to go on and do bigger and better deals and bigger and better business, right? Every single challenge is literally presented for you to develop as an entrepreneur, for you to develop as a real estate investor, to go on to the next step, right? So, one story that I like to tell is how Adit got cocky and put six figures in escrow on a hotel, right? A lot of it was my personal cash, and some of it was investors' money. Even scarier, you care more about your investors' money than you do about your personal cash. And we were in escrow and due diligence for this hotel. Due diligence phase ended, right? Earnest money deposit went hard, so now it's non-refundable, and we're on a timeline to close. And we needed another $600,000 to close, right? And I already had about 180,000 or so in escrow. Most of that being my personal cash. Once again, over half of that being my personal cash. And I had I think 5 days to come up with the money, or else my earnest money deposit and my investors' money, my personal money was at risk. So I made one phone call to someone in the military mastermind that I am in. Uh, I don't know if he wants me to say his name, so if you're watching this on Instagram, I'll tag him later if he gives me um, the green light. But it's the War Room Mastermind by Dave Perret. Dave Perret's War Room Mastermind. I'm in that mastermind. It's very inexpensive. I literally posted in there, "Hey, this is the money I need." Yeah, I'll say it. Dave called me. Dave said, "Hey, man, I might have your guy." And sure enough, 3 days later, I had my money. So during that time, though, I was so freaking holy shit. Why did I do this? I had my back against the wall, and then now for the next 4 months, I had to pay back 600 grand. So that was just a temporary fix. Now I had to go raise $600,000 in 90 days, which we did, thankfully. But we were so freaking stressed out during that time. It was not pretty. There was nothing pretty about it. all of me and my two partners in that company were at each other's throats, like, hey, why the hell did you open this escrow? We didn't need another deal, we already got another raise going on, blaming each other. We learned a lot from it, and we don't behave like that anymore. But it wasn't pretty. I hated it. It was uncomfortable. I never want to feel like that again. But it taught me a lot, and it made me a better person, and made me more responsible entrepreneur. So what I will say is embrace the suck. Definitely embrace the suck. You're going to have it. Each and every single one of you who buy a property are going to be uncomfortable. You're going to find a problem. You're going to be pissed off about something. You're going to probably have to fork over money you were not expecting. I guarantee that it's going to happen. But the only thing that you can control in that situation is your attitude and your actions. Don't worry about anything else.
Mm, that's so valuable. And that's a life lesson. You apply that everywhere you go. Would you say that was the biggest thing that particular scenario taught you, or was there something else in further, you know, understanding that's not a position you ever want to find yourself in again? What do you do to prevent yourself from being there?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely taught me, just take it slow. Dude, if God willing, I'll live until I'm 80 some odd years old, and I'm only 28, man. So I got a long way to go, and I got a lot of working years ahead of me, man. And I'm only 4 years into this now, going on 5, and I'm gonna take my time, dude. I'll do one deal at a time, to do two deals at a time. I've got right now we've got 4 hotels and 2 development projects going at once, but just taking it slow. There's no reason to rush that. Just do it responsibly. Don't take on massive leverage. Start with one at a time. So that was a consequence of just going to it was literally a growing pain, right? You are going to experience growing pains, but if you control your growth responsibly, it'll just be less painful. You're gonna experience pain at some point.
Mm,
We talked a little bit about stoicism, but Marcus Aurelius in Meditations has a famous passage where he talks about not wanting to get out of bed in the morning, of his warm bed, right? This is a Roman emperor, people. Doesn't want to get out of his warm bed, his luxury, the luxury of the time. Like, this guy is this is as luxurious as it gets, and he doesn't need to, right? This guy could sit in bed all. I mean, he's running Rome, but he doesn't need to get that uncomfortable, right? But he did. Why? Because he said that life was meant to be experienced. The uncomfortable, the comfortable, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it is just part of life. It's just part of the experience. So just take it as that, as the experience, and you won't have any problems. But yeah, man, like, I have so many freaking problems come up all the time, dude. I had a squatter pull out a gun on my crew. Had people ruin. I bought a property that was mold infested. Have this had the city come and get up my butt several times, but every single time it's just like, okay, this happened. You keep that inner activation and emotion just neutral, and okay, what are we going to do about it? And that's really helped me get through a lot of things.
and I think that principle is also applicable to your approach to value add, right? I mean, that's what it is. It's just a pain after a pain. But your perspective that you've explained so far is you're collecting data points. Okay. If this, then that. If that, then this. And you've developed a playbook, which I think allows you to continue to grow. So, some of the snippets that I want to make sure we drive home, really going back to your origin story, which is what I love. I told Donnie, I was on the phone with him just before we got on the chat, and I'm like, from what I can see and what I've listened to and what I've read of yours, you're a man of principles and fundamentals.
Thank you.
And I love seeing that your fundamental principles and values, that you had when you started your career in real estate, permeate to today. So again, that is, putting the blinders on and only focusing on your own growth and what you can control, and two, being unconventional in your approach to growth. Also using the VA loan as the most powerful tool, and interest can be high, interest can be low, the market could crash, the market could boom. As long as the numbers make sense and you're able to add the value to the deal that you're pursuing, then you can succeed. And the way that you do that is by having the team around you. And the way that you get that team is by asking the questions. It's about putting yourself out there. Um, and I mean, yeah, I feel like that's the Adit Shah playbook.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, yeah, you nailed it, man. I mean, it's not hard, man. It's very simple.
Yeah. Um, is there anything else you want to tell the audience before we sign off?
Yeah. If you are in the military and or out of the military and you want some help, hit me up. At Housebender on Instagram, and every single Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so 4 p.m. Pacific, I do a free webinar. There's nothing being sold there. Do a free webinar, and you can find the details of it on my Instagram, and you can come ask questions. Um, if you're on the fence or if you're stuck anywhere in life or business and you need help, just hit me up. I'm more than happy to help you.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes. So just check that out to be able to connect with Adit. I appreciate that, Adit, and all the value that you added to everyone so selflessly. And again, principles that apply in real estate, apply in any business, and apply in life. And that's more than we could ever ask of someone. So thanks for your time, Adit. It was really helpful.
Thank you, Steve. I was so excited to be here, and it's really, truly my honor, man. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir.